Damn him. Damn me for not seeing it sooner. I'm Riley, and I used to believe loyalty could save a marriage, but in the span of one night, I went from wife to target. And then, to something Ethan never expected. His biggest mistake. Stay with me, because what I did next changed everything. They say a name holds power. Ethan used to say mine like a prayer. Riley, he'd whisper into my hair each morning, just as the sunlight spilled across our bedroom floor. There was a warmth in his tone that made me feel invincible, like I was the center of some private universe he'd built just for us. On quiet nights, his fingers would trace lazy circles on my back, and he'd say things like, "I don't know who I'd be without you." For years I believed him. Our mornings followed a rhythm. He'd make coffee, I'd prep smoothies, we'd brush past each other in the kitchen, soft touches, inside jokes, quick kisses on the cheek. Our condo in Chicago wasn't just a home, it was the container of our shared dreams. I ran a mid-sized tech firm. He was in finance. A power couple, our friends joked. People saw us as the kind of team that didn't just survive life, we conquered it. But lately I'd begun noticing small shifts. Ethan wasn't quite the same. Some mornings he left earlier than usual without a word. He stopped making coffee, something he never used to skip. The kisses faded. His phone became an extension of his hand. Always locked, always face down. Was it just work stress? I told myself yes. You're overthinking things, Riley. Stop romanticizing every silence. But silence has a weight, and it was growing heavier. That Tuesday I came home late after a client pitch. The living room lights were off, but I could hear Ethan upstairs. When I walked into the bedroom, he glanced up from his phone, startled. "Oh, you're home?" He quickly set it down. I texted, I said casually, kicking off my heels. "Big win today, we landed the Parkstone deal." "That's great," he said with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. No hug, no celebration, just distant approval. I sat on the edge of the bed watching him scroll through something on his screen. My heart twinged. "Who are you texting with such intensity?" I didn't ask, I smiled instead. Later that night, curled under the sheets, I reached for his hand like I always did. He was already asleep, or pretending to be. His fingers didn't curl around mine. For the first time in years, I felt like a guest in my own marriage. Still, I clung to the belief that this was a phase, a bump, a storm passing. Relationships go through seasons, right? The next morning, things felt strangely normal. "Want coffee?" I asked, trying to inject a little joy into our morning routine. He glanced at the clock. "No time, I've got a call with a client in 5. Then he paused at the door, turning back just slightly. "Love you." It should have made me smile. It didn't. It felt scripted. I stood at the window after he left, cradling my untouched coffee, watching the blur of early commuters fill the streets below. Why did that feel like a goodbye? I shook off the thought. I had a company to run, a life to live. I couldn't afford paranoia, not over a few strange mornings and half-felt kisses. But that night, everything began to shift. At first, I thought I imagined it. The whisper was so faint, like wind brushing through a crack in the window. But the second time I heard it, I knew it was real. A voice. Ethan's voice. Quiet, but sharp. Careful, calculated. I sat up slowly, ears straining. The house was cloaked in darkness, the kind that presses against your skin. The hallway was silent except for the low murmur coming from his home office. She still doesn't suspect anything. My breath caught. I froze. Every nerve in my body went rigid, like someone had flipped a switch. What doesn't she suspect, Ethan? What are you hiding from me? I eased out of bed, bare feet sinking into the cold hardwood. My hands trembled slightly as I made my way down the hallway, every creak beneath my step louder than thunder in the quiet. The door to his office was closed, but a sliver of light poured out from beneath it, pale and golden. I pressed my back to the wall, heartbeat thudding like a war drum in my chest. I couldn't hear the other person. Whoever he was talking to must have been on the phone, but Ethan's voice was unmistakable. Calm. Focused. Too calm for 2 a.m. "Yeah, I've already transferred it," he said. Then a pause. "It's going as planned, almost done." Transferred what? Almost done with what? I stood there, unable to move, feeling like I'd just stumbled into someone else's life. Or maybe, someone else's trap. The man I loved. The man who once read me poetry and kissed my forehead every night before bed. He was whispering in the shadows, and I wasn't part of the plan. A floorboard creaked. Panic surged through me. I darted back to the bedroom, heart pounding, and slipped under the covers just as the office door opened. Footsteps. Slow, measured, unbothered. He slipped back into bed like nothing had happened. I squeezed my eyes shut, willing my breathing to slow. He lay beside me, the mattress dipping slightly. I could feel his warmth, I could smell his cologne, but it didn't comfort me, it made my stomach churn. "Who are you?" His breathing slowed. Steady, even. Mine was anything but. I don't know how long I lay there, eyes wide in the dark, replaying those words again and again. She still doesn't suspect anything. Was I just a placeholder in a plan he'd already set in motion? By morning, I was no longer Riley the wife. I was Riley the watchful. While he showered, I slipped into the kitchen, my phone shaking in my hands. I opened our shared banking app, a place I'd rarely ventured. Ethan handled the bills, the savings, the investments. I trusted him. But now? The numbers hit me like punches. $500, $1,000, $750, $2,000, gone, all over the past 3 months. Random, scattered withdrawals, not investments, not bills. Just vanished. I gripped the countertop, bile rising in my throat. Behind me, I heard his voice. "Checking the account this early?" I turned, trying to keep my expression neutral. He stood in the doorway, towel slung over his shoulder, hair damp, wearing that same sleepy smile he always did, except now I knew it was fake. "Just thought I'd take a look," I said softly. "Some of these withdrawals look odd." He shrugged, pouring himself coffee like nothing was wrong. "Oh, those, just a few small investments I forgot to mention." He smiled. Didn't meet my eyes. I smiled back. Didn't believe a word. Inside, my heart was splintering, but somewhere beneath the fear, something else was starting to rise. Certainty. He was hiding something, and I was going to find out what. I watched him like I'd never watched anyone in my life, studying the way he moved, the way he answered questions just a little too vaguely, the way his phone never left his side. Always face down. Always low. It wasn't just paranoia, it was instinct. He texted constantly now, even during dinner, his thumb moving in practiced silence. And whenever I glanced his way, he'd tilt the screen away or push it just slightly under the table like it was muscle memory. "Who are you texting, Ethan? Why do you look like you're always hiding?" That evening, while he stirred pasta in the kitchen, I sat across from him, pretending to scroll through recipes on my tablet. My eyes weren't on the screen. They were locked on him. He hummed a tune I didn't recognize, something upbeat. Too upbeat. "So," I said, trying to sound casual, "you said those withdrawals were investments?" He didn't miss a beat. "Yeah, just a few things I'm testing out. Crypto, mostly." "Crypto?" I asked, my voice light, but inside my pulse throbbed. "You've always said crypto was too volatile." He chuckled. "Yeah, well, times change, right?" His smile was easy, but his eyes flicked down to his phone. Again. I forced a laugh. "Right." Later that night, he stepped out to take a call. "I'll just be a minute," he said, already halfway to the balcony. I followed silently after the sliding door clicked shut behind him. I pressed myself against the wall near the hallway corner and straining to catch snippets of his voice through the glass. "I know, I'm working on it." A pause. She still has no idea. Longer pause. "Tomorrow or the day after, I'll tell her then." "No, it'll go smoothly. Trust me." My chest tightened. I backed away before he came back inside, slipping into the living room and pretending to scroll. My fingers trembled. My throat ached. The walls of our home, our life, suddenly felt foreign. Like I didn't belong here anymore, like I was living inside someone else's lie. The next night, my chance came. Ethan stood, stretched, and announced he was going to shower. Nothing unusual, except this time he left his phone on the table. Unlocked. Unattended, for the first time. I stared at it, heart pounding. Do I really want to know? My hand reached for it before I could think twice. The screen lit up, no password prompt. My stomach turned, my fingers swiped. A new message blinked at the top of the screen. "Send her the Ilya Morrow message. Just make sure she stays in the dark." Almost done. The blood drained from my face. What was Ilya Morrow? What were they sending me? Was I the mark in some elaborate scheme? I didn't reply. I didn't even open it. I set the phone down exactly where I found it, my hands ice-cold, breath shallow. The shower was still running. I walked to the bedroom in a daze, crawling beneath the covers as if that could shield me from whatever this was. But my mind wouldn't stop. The betrayal wasn't theoretical anymore. It was real, concrete, and coordinated. The next morning, Ethan kissed my cheek and handed me coffee like it was just another day. "How's work going?" he asked, casual and warm. I met his gaze with a smile that didn't touch my eyes. "Busy. Yours?" He nodded, sipping his drink. "We should talk about the finances soon, by the way, just to stay ahead. You never know what life might throw at us." And just like that, the trap had a voice. But I wouldn't step into it, not without a plan. I waited until he left. The moment the front door clicked shut behind him, I stood frozen in the middle of the kitchen, the morning light spilling across the tile like it didn't know my world was crumbling. My hands moved on their own, grabbing my phone, unlocking it with a shaking thumb. Anna, my best friend, my lawyer, my last line of defense. The phone rang once, twice. Then... "Riley?" Her voice was alert, clear, still touched by sleep. "Is everything okay?" "No," I whispered. My voice cracked. "I think Ethan is planning something big." I told her everything. The whispers in the hallway, the message on his phone, the fake investment story, the strange withdrawals, the word Iliamaro echoing in my head like a ticking clock. Anna didn't interrupt. She just listened. And when I finally stopped, breathless and dizzy, she spoke with a quiet certainty that made me feel a little less alone. "Riley," she said, "you need to move your assets. All of them. Today." I sat down hard at the dining table, the words hitting me like a cold slap. "Move them? Legally joint. We'll build a legal wall around everything. Your apartment, your investments, savings, every dollar you've earned." I swallowed hard. "That sounds extreme." "No," she said, "what he's doing is extreme. You're just surviving it." She was right. I'd built everything from the ground up, while Ethan floated through jobs, through ideas, through ambitions that never stuck. I had created our stability, and he was planning to take it from me. "Not today." "Okay," I said, steadier now. "Let's do it." The next few hours passed in a blur of legal calls, document scans, and signatures. Anna handled everything like a general in battle, calm, sharp, strategic. I moved through it like someone watching themselves from above. My body followed instructions. My voice gave approval. But inside I was unraveling. How had we gotten here? How had the man who used to tuck a strand of hair behind my ear during breakfast, who once cried when I broke my wrist, turned into this calculating stranger? That night, Ethan came home late. He kissed my cheek like he always did, smiled like nothing had changed. "Busy day?" he asked. "Very," I replied, sipping wine to hide the shake in my hand. "Yours?" "Non-stop," he said, stretching, "but productive. I feel like everything's finally coming together." The irony nearly made me choke. I smiled, glad to hear it. He looked pleased, like he had me exactly where he wanted me. But he didn't know what I'd done. He didn't know I'd moved at all, that he couldn't take a single thing without a fight now. As he scrolled through his phone, texting someone I no longer wanted to guess the name of, I looked at him and felt nothing. Not rage, not grief, just clarity. The man in front of me wasn't my husband, not really. And for the first time, I didn't need him to be. 4 days passed, each one thick with silence and pretend. Ethan floated through our home like a man with a secret burning in his pocket, but one he believed I'd never notice. And I played along, smiled when he smiled, laughed when he cracked a joke, nodded when he talked about restructuring our future, finances, routines. He was setting the stage. But so was I. On the 5th day he came home early. The sound of the front door closing was sharper than usual, deliberate. I turned from the kitchen sink just as he walked in, a leather folder tucked under one arm. "Hey," I greeted, trying not to show the way my stomach clenched. "Hey," he replied. No kiss, no warmth. He set the folder on the table between us. "We need to have a serious talk." My heart thudded once, but I didn't flinch. I wiped my hands, sat down and nodded. "Okay, what's on your mind?" He opened the folder and slid the top page toward me. His expression was calm, too calm. "I want a divorce, Riley." Flat, practiced, precise. "I think it's for the best. We've grown apart. I don't want things to get messy." I looked down at the page. His signature stared up at me like a sealed threat. And yet all I felt was stillness. "No," I said softly, looking him straight in the eye. "You don't want things to get messy." He blinked, just once, a flicker of uncertainty. Then the calm returned. "It'll be easier if we both cooperate. I already spoke with a lawyer. Here, we can divide assets, the apartment, the savings, fairly." I let out a small breath, almost a laugh. He thought he was holding the cards. I reached over, pushed the papers back toward him gently, and folded my hands on the table. There's something you should know first. He paused. What's that? I met his eyes, no smile, no tremble in my voice. I already moved everything, all the assets, the accounts, the property. They're in a trust, legally protected. You can't touch a cent. The silence that followed was volcanic. Ethan didn't speak. His face drained of color, his lips parted, but no words came out. His fingers curled into slow, deliberate fists. What? He whispered as if the word itself couldn't breathe. I know what you've been planning, I said calmly. The late-night calls, the messages to Ilya, the fake investments, I know. His jaw clenched so hard I could see the muscle twitch. You've been watching me? He spat. No, I said, I've been waking up. He pushed back from the table suddenly, pacing the room like a caged animal. This is ridiculous. You think you can just, what? Outsmart me? I already did. He turned, furious. You think you've won? I stood, slow and steady, facing him fully. No, I think I've finally stopped losing. He stared at me for a long, tense second, then scoffed. Fine, then I guess I'll see you in court, Riley. I nodded, holding his gaze. Bring your best. 3 days later it began. It didn't come in the form of another conversation or a knock at my door. No, it came in whispers. Side eyes. Shadows. At work, people stopped talking when I entered the room. My name, once spoken with respect, suddenly lingered in the air with a sour taste. In meetings, my ideas were met with hesitation, eyes darting, lips tightening before responses. At first I thought I was imagining it. Just fallout. Stress. But then Rachel, my assistant, walked into my office with a grim expression. Riley, she said, placing a printed page on my desk. You need to see this. It was a screenshot. A post from an anonymous online forum, one dedicated to corporate gossip. Rumor has it a certain CFO has been embezzling funds to hide assets during a divorce. Real classy. Wonder how the board will feel about that. I felt the blood drain from my face. Below it, dozens of comments. And one that turned my stomach inside out. Pretty sure it's Riley S. from R&D Tech. Check the filings. I stared at it, heart pounding. Not just speculation. My name, out there. Ethan, I whispered. Rachel nodded, her voice tight with fury. It has to be. No one else would know this much detail, real or fake. I clenched my jaw, my fingers curling around the edge of the desk. He wasn't just trying to divorce me, he was trying to ruin me. Smear my name, destroy my credibility, make it look like I was the villain. I need to call Anna, I said, already reaching for my phone. That evening, I sat across from her in her office, the printout between us like a loaded weapon. He's going for your reputation, Anna said bluntly. Character assassination. He wants to rattle you, make you slip. I won't, I said through clenched teeth. Not now, not after everything. She nodded. Then we fight back. First we send a cease and desist. We'll track the IP. If he or someone linked to him is behind it, we'll sue for defamation and damages, and we'll make it loud. For the first time that week, I felt a pulse of strength return. I want him to feel it, I said. Every lie, every whisper, every attempt to turn people against me, I want him to know I'm not backing down. Anna met my gaze. Good. Because this isn't just a divorce anymore, it's war. The next morning, the smear post was gone, deleted. But the damage had already bled into boardrooms, client meetings, inboxes. I showed up to work in heels and confidence, but beneath it, the hurt ran deep. How many people read it? How many believed it? I was losing more than just a marriage. I was losing my name. But I reminded myself, Ethan could only win if I cracked. And I was done breaking. A week later I got the call. Anna's voice was unusually light, almost amused. You're going to like this. I grabbed my coat without asking questions and met her at the office within the hour. She didn't waste time. She slid a thick file across her desk toward me, her fingers tapping the top page with precision. They made a mistake. Her eyes gleamed. I flipped through the pages. Bank statements, transaction records, timestamps. Ethan's team submitted these as evidence, she said, claiming you moved joint funds illegally before setting up your trust. I scanned the document. Rows of dates, amounts, transfer types. Then my eyes caught it. Wait, this transaction is dated May 12th, I said, blinking. Anna nodded. Exactly, but according to official records, the trust account wasn't even opened until July 3rd. My heart jumped. They backdated transactions, I whispered. They fabricated evidence. Poorly, she added with a smirk. They got too confident, thought no one would look closely. But our forensic expert did. I stared at the proof. anger and triumph colliding in my chest. This wasn't just a win, this was checkmate. 3 days later we were in court. The air was thick. Every glance in the courtroom carried a charge. Ethan sat across the aisle, his suit pristine, but his hand gripped his pen like it was the only anchor he had left. The judge reviewed the file in silence, flipping through each page with a slow, deliberate rhythm. Then he spoke. Based on the timestamps and expert verification, the court finds that the documents submitted by Mr. Reynolds and his associate were falsified. These transactions predate the existence of the plaintiff's account, making them impossible. Gasps rippled across the room. I turned my gaze to Ethan. He didn't blink, didn't speak, but his jaw tightened, and a single twitch near his eye betrayed the fury brewing beneath his polished exterior. Anna leaned toward me, whispering, "This just became criminal." The judge continued, "All of Mr. Reynolds' claims are hereby dismissed. Furthermore, due to the deliberate submission of forged documents, the court is opening an investigation into both Mr. Reynolds and Mr. Ilya Maroro." Ethan's lawyer tried to object, but the judge silenced him with a glance. "I'm also ordering that the defendant pay all of the plaintiff's legal fees." The gavel fell, the courtroom exhaled, and Ethan? He looked like a man who had just watched his empire collapse, brick by deceitful brick. Outside the courthouse the air was crisp, clear, lighter than it had felt in months. I stood on the steps, letting it wash over me. The relief, the clarity, the cold bite of vindication. Anna came up beside me, her smile wide and unapologetic. "He's finished," she said. I nodded slowly. "Not just legally, professionally. His name's tied to this now. And yours," she added gently, "is clean again." We stood there in silence for a moment, watching the world continue around us. The smear campaign, the threats, the betrayal, it had all led to this. He tried to destroy me, but instead he destroyed himself. 2 weeks passed. Ethan's name was no longer whispered in courtrooms, it was muttered in back offices in quiet, stunned disbelief at his fall from grace. His company cut ties, his bank dropped him, his beloved sports car sold to cover legal fees. His luxury apartment listed below market just to move it fast. The man who once tried to take everything from me now had nothing left to hide behind. And me, I was standing in my living room, barefoot, coffee in hand, watching the early sunlight spread across my hardwood floors. The same ones I used to tiptoe across in fear. Now they felt like mine again. My phone buzzed with a text from Anna. "Congratulations, Riley. He's officially undone." I smiled softly. There were no victory dances, no dramatic toasts, just peace. And after what I'd endured, peace was the most powerful thing of all. That night, Anna insisted we go out. She booked a private room at a rooftop restaurant and gathered my closest friends. Laughter returned. Real laughter. The kind that doesn't carry pain underneath it. They raised their glasses. "To Riley," Anna said, her voice bright. "The woman who reminded us that strength isn't loud, it's deliberate." I clinked my glass against hers, a warmth rising in my chest, not from the wine but from something deeper. Wholeness. Later that evening my best friend Beatrice leaned in and asked, "How does it feel knowing he has nothing left?" I thought about it for a second, then answered honestly, "It feels like freedom," I said. "Like every part of myself he tried to erase, I've taken back." She nodded, reaching for my hand. "And what now?" I looked out over the glittering skyline of Chicago. The city felt different now. Like it was mine to rediscover. "No more giving everything to people who only want to take," I said. "I'm going to enjoy my life, my terms, my rules." A few nights later I walked alone along the lakefront. The wind brushed through my coat, cool and clean. I passed the spot where Ethan once proposed. For a moment I stopped. I didn't cry. I didn't even flinch, because the woman who stood there now wasn't the same one who had once said yes through tears of joy. That woman believed love was enough. This woman, she believed in boundaries, in trust backed by clarity, in strength that doesn't ask permission. As I returned home, I stepped onto my balcony, gazing at the city stretching endlessly before me. My phone buzzed again, an unknown number. This isn't over. I stared at the message, then deleted it, then blocked the number. No fear. No hesitation, he didn't matter anymore. Because this chapter wasn't about Ethan. It was about Riley, the woman who protected her legacy, who walked through betrayal and came out whole. Who lost everything she thought was real, and found something far more valuable, herself.